Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Jim here. We're going to go through the detail of my testing on the Glion Dolly. I'll put a link to the review for that I did, like the base, kind of going through the details of the scooter. So this is mostly going to cover the range tests, my acceleration tests and braking tests, and a headlight test, and that kind of detail. So first thing we're going to do is a range test. My average from the range test was 15.7 miles. And here in range test number 1, I actually covered 17.5 miles. It was 76 degrees when I started, this is in Fahrenheit, and 79 degrees when I ended. And the wind was only 1 to 6 miles per hour out of the south, so more of a crosswind. At the end of the test, the motor temperature was kind of warm, 123.9 degrees. Not that surprising, I've seen this. It's not extremely hot, but that's definitely warm. And the battery was at 95.5 degrees. So everything warmed up a little bit. But the one thing that was interesting is that the speed decreases over time along this test. And so towards the end of the test, I wasn't moving very fast at all. But it did go a lot further than I expected. The video cuts out at not quite 12 miles because I ran out of batteries on the camera. But I covered 17 miles per hour using my GPS watch. And there you can see my top and average speed. So I hit range test number 2. I didn't cover quite as much distance. I got 14.4 miles. I did this one at night, as you can see. It was 61 degrees when I started and 53 degrees when I stopped. Very light winds, 0 to 3 miles per hour coming out of the north. At the end of this test, the battery is only at 92 degrees. Still a warm up from ambient temperature, of course. And the battery there was no increase in temperature at all in the battery. I was pretty impressed, honestly, with the range of the Glion. It doesn't feel as fast as some other scooters, but it's really smooth to operate the throttle. The ride is the most negative part for me, and I'll talk about that a little bit more at the conclusions of this video, but I'll let this range test wrap up and show you the averages here in a second when it pops up. So you can see there, average speed was dropping quite a bit on this range test. There was more stop and start on this particular test. Now we're going to get into the acceleration test. These first ones are with me at 175 pounds. And I was surprised at the acceleration of the Glion. It actually covers that distance up, like, for me, a little over 13 miles per hour. But then the braking is also really good. This is me doing the braking here. So I stopped in an average of 43.5 feet. It feels strong, but not unmanageably strong. And you'll see there's another one of my acceleration tests, another braking test. And I did this from around the top speed, which is generally 15 to 16 miles per hour. And then it's going to go in here in a second to there's my son measuring. Thank you, Milo. And it's going to go into my son Milo at 105 pounds doing his acceleration tests, and expectedly he was almost 1.5 miles faster. And that's the one thing I see with all these scooters is the weight really makes a big difference. The weight of the rider, that is. And then braking, of course, he was a lot slower on the braking, or a lot shorter. A little over 38 feet was his average braking distance. You see that there, comparison. Alright, so this headlight test is with the camera mounted on the dashboard of my car as the Glion comes to approach. And even though the Glion headlight is mounted low, it's got enough lumens, which I don't know what the lumen rating is, so it's bright. And so, I hope that gives you a showing of what you might see if you're approaching the Glion Dolly. Alright, so my conclusion on the scooter. For me, the rough ride was a tough one to get over. But I gotta say, I appreciate a scooter manufacturer that's not exaggerating their claims on distance and speed. I got right at the speed advertised for most of the range test. And at the beginning, when this has a fresh charge, it exceeds that. It goes, I get almost 18 miles per hour. That doesn't last very long, but you know, it's unusual. And then the 15-mile range, my first test, I exceeded it by 2 miles, and the other one I was just a half a mile under. And I would have done more range tests, but to me, I felt those were close enough. And plus, the lack of suspension on this makes it difficult to ride unless you have really smooth path for the range test, because it's so bumpy. For me, anyway. My son really likes the Glion. If we have a couple of scooters going out, he prefers the Glion. The braking and the throttle feel really natural. Of course, you have the bell, but you know, and the headlight doesn't have any sort of electronics on the display. Well, it has electronics, but doesn't have any speed or distance. It's just a battery indicator. But it's solid, and it'd be heavy to carry if you're just carrying it. But its dolly feature makes it a pretty good, I mean, it's a good scooter for what it is. And I mean, I know I just said it, but having a manufacturer that's not overly exaggerating their claims is refreshing to me. And you know, it's got some little idiosyncrasies, and if they either had air tires or suspension, I think it'd make a big difference. And if the ride harshness was able to be figured out, this would be a great scooter. So I'm gonna look at my notes here, see if there's anything else that I didn't cover that I think would be useful. I think that really wraps it up for me. So that's a Glion Dolly. Pretty good on speed, quite good on range, easy to haul around, move around with the dolly feature. Pretty rough to ride. You probably see on the other video, like I wouldn't take this thing off-road even though tires look like they could support it. But for the right commuting situation, I think it's good. And the price, the price is good on these. I bought this on a refurbished deal on Glion's website, and you can check there every so often and get them for a discount. This is $529. I think right now they might be running a special. You can buy them on Amazon for $629. But anyway, hope this video helps out. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.
Catch the wave.